Back on your tech report, Marc Aflalo and Mitchell Whitfield with you. Mitchell,
Yes, sir.
I think I've got in my hands the one device, as of whatever
I didn't know where you're going with this, but yes, go ahead.
that may actually get me away from using an iPhone as my daily driver. Do you know what the device is?
Well, I do, but before you say anything, we did, before we go on the air, and obviously you're listening to us on Sirius XM right now, and we talk about the show a little bit. We like to keep it fresh,
Yeah.
I sort of got to look at that device, and the first thing I thought was, wow, that is ridiculously thin, especially when you consider what it is. Tease. The other thought is, I want one, and that could get me away from an iPhone, except for the ecosystem, which I'm so entrenched, and that's what Apple counts on. They already have you with, your iPad. They know that you're sucked into that ecosystem, right? So it's going to take more than just a pretty device. But Mark, that Galaxy phone is, and it's foldable. Is that the 7?
So this is the Galaxy Z Fold 7, okay?
Right. Okay, yeah.
It is the latest folding phone from Samsung.
Oh, it's
and
gorgeous.
It is strikingly thin. Not only strikingly thin, Mitchell, but you talked about a couple things there. And number one is when it's folded, it's not in its open form, it's a full-fledged smartphone. Like, there's no compromise here.
And it's still thin.
It's thin. It's still thin. It's still thinner than the iPhone. I honestly, spec-wise, I haven't even checked the millimeters on it, but it's a gorgeous flagship device in its folded form and works wonderful with one hand. But when you have the ability to just pop it open, like I'm doing here, this butterfly style, and you get a full tablet-sized display in your hand and in your pocket. And you get this all with the latest generation processors and Wi-Fi and 5G connectivity.
And AI.
And you get all the bells and whistles and the Gemini AI that is, I think, leading the pack. At least when we're recording this, it's leading the pack compared to some of the other models that are out there.
Sorry, Apple fans, we don't really have AI to talk about yet.
Especially if you compare it to, of course, iOS devices.
Yeah.
But this is strikingly thin.
Yeah.
Strikingly comfortable in the hand. Yes, there's a crease in the middle of the screen that is honestly getting more and more barely noticeable.
It's really not that bad.
Perfectly honest.
Yeah.
It's not that bad. But it's the form factor that sells it for me, because I want a device that I can just kind of walk around with in my hand and pull up directions and maps and answer things and use my thumb to navigate. But the ability, especially in my field where I can pop it open and use a full-fledged audio mixer, for example, and not have to pull out my iPad to do it. The ability to answer emails and work on documents in a way that I can't do on a traditional smartphone because I'm limited to that display. And you get everything like the 24-hour battery life on video. You get, of course, all the bells and whistles that come with a modern-day Android device. In a package like this that, to be perfectly honest, yes, the price is high. You're at $24.99 Canadian.
Yeah.
So $24.99 Canadian is probably about just under $2,000 US.
Yeah, around $2,000. Yeah.
When you think about the iPhones we get in our lives that have a terabyte of storage and have all the features set, we're up to there. We're at 1700
No,
range.
we're really
I
not.
think.
We're really not.
Well, in Canada we are.
So let me just stop you for a second, because I have a few thoughts.
Go for it.
That's my wife. I had to mute her. Sorry, honey, I didn't mean to mute you. We're doing a show. So the major thing that has stopped me from ever being interested in a folding phone, even though, I've been an iPhone person, not that I'm not open to other devices, I am.
Yeah.
Aside from that and the ecosystem that I've been entrenched in for years, the one point that killed it for me was, okay, so for the time you're not using it in open mode, because I have an iPad mini I can use for that.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I have all the different size iPads that I can use for that portrait / landscape
with you. It's not your main device. Yeah.
Correct. That's true. But it's the concern was, what was the experience going to be like when it was in its folded form, when it's in its regular candy bar phone style format, when it's in that folded position.
Yeah.
Because if it wasn't comfortable, because for the most part, you remember the original ones that were kind of thicker on the bookend part, on the hinge part, than they were when they tapered down.
It was like a Max device, like an iPhone Pro Max.
And it was like holding in it, but it was so thick and it was so heavy that it was not a comfortable device to use other than when it was in open form, in which case I'd rather carry a device that's permanently in open form. You know what I mean? It had to be usable in its regular folded form and thin enough that I was like, okay, If I just want to use it as a phone, I can. And by the way, the display, the outer display, which used to be just like a few lines, it's a gorgeous, back
it's
in the day.
6.5-inch diagonal display. It's a beautiful display.
It's a gorgeous flagship display, and it's one screen on the back before you even open it up to the two screens that form a one giant screen on the inside. So for me, the major falling point is now taken away because it's thin. And you could use it as a regular phone, and then you open it, and by the way, it's the size of a tablet.
Not only is it an 8-inch diagonal screen the size of a tablet, but when you look at the side cutout here, and if you check out our YouTube channel at YourTechReport, you can see that I'm showing up to the camera here. You can see that the USB-C port, which is on the right side of the screen, I mean, there's barely enough room. There's barely enough room for any metal supports on the side. I mean, any thinner than that, and I think we would need to remove that connector entirely, to be perfectly honest. And then flip it above, you see the SIM card tray. Again, SIM card nano SIMs are tiny. And I think we're getting to the point where the next step up from this...
It's just going to have digital SIM for everything now.
It's going to be eSIM, and it's going to be wireless charging. It's just going to be the way it has to go.
Yeah, because we don't
want to get even thinner. Like I'm shocked, to be perfectly honest, and I'll head over to Jerry Rig Everything. He does a great teardowns of these devices where he literally rips them apart.
He destroys them. It actually hurts me. He's really good at what he does. But it hurts me to watch these brand new devices that they send him get destroyed, even though I know why he's doing it. It's very upsetting. But go ahead.
Yeah, it's quite shocking to see how they can even fit this technology inside these devices and these thin pancake modes. And this is the funny thing is, this is like the first kind of flagship device that comes out as we lead into fall. I know it's not fall yet, guys. Don't worry. I'm not, preemptively ending summer for you. But in a couple weeks' time, we're going to see what Google has to offer with their Pixel 10 and their Pixel 10 Fold. And we're hearing rumors already that Pixel Fold is actually going to have dust-proof and waterproof ratings. Whereas this device, that was the one compromise, was that there is 0 IP rating on this. There might be a little bit of shock proofness if you drop it. But
don't breathe on it because the moisture from your breath might make it fizzle.
Well, and not only that, but when you look at the side cutout here and you look at the butterfly mechanism for the screen, it's gotten really, really good. Like there's not much room for sand. Like if you remember those first generations of these, people would drop them in the beach and you'd see all the sand would get under the screen and then the crevices and let alone the fact that we had that whole screen gate where people were pulling off this protective layer of the screen. We've gone so far. We've come so far when it comes to these folding devices. It actually reminded me of that Surface Duo. Remember that Surface Duo? I think, do you still have
that?
I think
I do.
Gave that to you.
I don't think so.
It was strikingly thin.
Yes.
It was still two separate displays, so you didn't have that seamless infinity kind of design in the middle.
Which I was actually okay with.
I was okay with too. And if you think about it,
it was different.
Think about if you were to take the minute amount of aluminum or metal that's holding that USB-C connector in place. If that was the only seam between two screens on a folding display when it opened, you'd barely notice it. And you think back to that duo was fairly visible. Sorry, I didn't mean to talk to you, phone. I'm sorry. Very, very impressive. Very impressive. And all the reviews that are coming out are quite positive for this device. Of course, the only thing that you have to deal with is a giant camera bump. That is almost the thickness of the entirety of the phone.
Well, Mark, from what we're seeing from Apple about the new camera bump they have, which looks like a giant bolted on third of a phone, I don't think Samsung has anything to worry about. I also want to put this in perspective because I want to look at the big picture when it comes to Samsung and their smartphone devices and their smart devices, rather. So the fact that they are able to consistently innovate and in some cases iterate with just making existing products better and better, right?
Mm-hmm.
I want you to think about what this company does just in the on the mobile side. So the Galaxy S series and the S Ultra, and then with the Note with the built-in built-in stylus, right?
Yep.
Those phones have been winning awards nearly every year, or are among the top 2 or 3 for best smartphone and have been for the last 5 years, along with the Google Pixel line, and sometimes Apple, depending on where they fit in any given year. So they already had an award-winning phone line / tablet line with a stylus / giant phone line. Add in this folding phone, the flip folding phone, which I also really like, by the way. It's unusual, but it's super cool. And anyone who's had a Razr is going to appreciate that, right?
Oh, yeah.
So we're not talking about innovating in just one area of mobile phones. they are putting out new and amazing products in multiple lines. And it's sort of making other companies look not stagnant, but it just shows you how hardcore Samsung is about bringing us options on the mobile side. And not just in ways that we thought were kind of kitschy or just like proof of concept. Look, we can do this. We didn't make this device to sell. And a lot of people thought about folding devices. Look, it's a proof of concept. We can do this. We can have a foldable screen. We'll get to that space age stuff where you can just roll it up in your pocket like a piece of taffy or something later on. But no, it wasn't that. This is something that they actually made to iterate on, to get better and better until this has become, wow, I can actually see using one of these. And I would never have gone to one of these a few years ago. So basically, Samsung's killing it right now. That's my
Would
long-winded
you,
way of saying Samsung is killing it right now.
take money out of the equation, take ecosystem out of the equation?
Yeah.
Would you be more of a flip person or a fold person? Fold is obviously what I'm holding in my hand here, which opens up to a tablet size.
I'd
or
be
the
more
flip.
of a, if I had to choose, if you put a weapon to my head and said choose, I would have to choose fold, only because I like having, especially as you get older and it gets a little harder to see, and I like sometimes just going to a bigger screen. That I travel with my iPads whenever I can.
Yeah.
So the fold would probably be more useful for me. If space were at a premium and you didn't have a lot of room to put something, you didn't want to feel a large, is that a large phone in your pocket? If you didn't want to feel that on your leg every day, then a flip phone, and by the way, they look so good now. The screens are so good.
Yeah.
That would be an option. So it really depends. And we've talked about this ad nauseum on our radio show and on the YouTube side. It really is a use case sort of question, right? How are you going to use this device? If you're someone that prioritizes space and I don't like carrying a big, large, giant ham sandwich in my pocket, a flip phone is going to be wonderful. If you need a bigger screen like I do to see a little bit easier than a folding screen, beautiful.
Yeah.
And then there are other options in between, but that would be what about you? What's your answer to that?
I think I'm so used to carrying a regular smartphone size that I'm okay with continuing that form factor and sticking with the fold, only because of my particular use case to be able to do some work and stuff on the road.
That's why I say it really depends. That it's so important. That's why we always listen. Don't you do the same thing when relatives or friends ask you
all the
what
time?
should I? And I say,
it?
okay, well, how are you going to use it? That's the first question. And then from there, you can go to, okay, these are the options that will fit your particular use case. But that's the first thing you should always ask. And if you're not asking, for in behalf of somebody else, on behalf of someone else, ask it to yourself. How am I going to use this? If you're questioning, do I really need this? Is this something? How are you going to use it? And then you're going to get your answer.
Yeah. As I teased off the top of the show, not only are we talking about this phone today, but after a quick break, we're going to be talking all about rugged Samsung devices with someone at Samsung, which has a very cool use case. So let's take a quick break. This is your Tech Report. Follow along on all the socials. When we come back, we're going to dive into some rugged devices from Samsung. And I'm curious about your feedback. So let us know. Obviously, reach out, contact at YourTechReport.com, or check out the YouTube video on the YouTube channel at YourTechReport and leave us a note in the comments on the bottom.